everyone, and welcome back to the Fear the Final Girl, a Ryder Games podcast. I am your host, Jamie, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Evan. Say hello, Evan.
Hello, Evan.
I didn't think you were actually going to do it. He said
I won't do it. I won't do it next time. It honestly wasn't that funny to begin with, and it's really not funny anymore. So
I feel like it's going to be one of those jokes like in Family Guy that the more that it happens, eventually it starts to get funny again. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, well, I'll trust you on that.
Today's theme is all about past lives, and we have two very special guests with us here today. We have game designer, publisher, and writer Banana Chan, and professor, designer, and writer Sen-Foong Lim, who both happen to be designers on one of our most recent releases, The Revenant Society, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So welcome to the podcast, both of you. I would love to have you introduce yourself and tell the listeners a little bit about you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. I'm Banana Chan. You can find me on all social media at Banana Chan Games. I am a writer, designer, publisher. I own a small box publishing company called Read Write Memory, previously known as Game in a Curry, and some of my notable work has been on Revenant Society, Junction Blood the Banquet Hall, and Betrayal 3rd Edition. So yeah, that's me.
Hey, my name is Sen. You can call me Sen. I use he, him pronouns, and I am a professor of psychology here in London, Ontario, Canada. Go Canada. I was just drinking Canada Dry, if you noticed. Best ginger ale in the world, bar none. And yes, facts. Straight facts. I'm sorry, Evan. What do you like, Evan?
Red Rock.
Okay, well, I mean, is that a widely available thing, or is that like a very kind of bespoke thing?
It's hard to find. It is the strongest ginger ale I've ever had. And
okay, well, I would like to try that. So if you can find some, we will try that. Like maybe sometime soon.
If you don't close your nasal passages while you drink it, you will cough and choke.
Well, I love ginger beer and I love all that kind of stuff. So let's go.
Sounds like the Malort of ginger ale.
Maybe, right? And I'm a writer and a game designer from around these here parts. And yeah, I like making games, and I worked with Banana on Revenant Society as well as Exquisite Crime and Junction Blood in the Banquet Hall. But I'm probably better known, I don't even know if that's true, for board games and card games. So I did a lot of card games and board games with Jay Cormier and Alara Cameron and other people, mostly in IP related things. So Avatar, Korra, comic book stuff like Mind Management and our latest Core of Discovery. So yeah, I do stuff. I make games.
I'm curious, Sen, because I just spent quite a bit of time going through your game catalog.
Oh my gosh.
Do you have any games that you are the sole credit on?
Oh, this is a good question, and the answer is no.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, there's a method in my madness.
I would probably have published many more games if I did what you do.
But it's not because of that. It's not because I want to publish more games.
No, I know.
I just like working with people, and I'm very bad at, as Banana knows, Banana just sent me a message the other day that said, read your emails in very large cap. Because Banana has my secret to success is Banana, actually, in a lot of ways.
What? No.
Well, Banana manages me really well. She's like, we have to do this. It's like, oh yeah, that thing that we have to do. And then she'll tell me again, oh, that thing that you said you would do, you have to do it. And then I'll do it, and then things get published, and it's good.
In brackets, friendly reminder.
Yes. See, right? It's
Somewhat
not harsh
friendly.
or anything. It's mainly friendly. It's mostly friendly. There's no demons or occult things involved yet.
Yet.
I've looked at the way you do things and often thought man, I should probably do it like that.
I like I said, there's a method. There's a method to my madness, and it is often surrounding myself with smarter people than me, which is a good thing, and then just really being passionate about the projects that we pick and work on. The problem is that I tend to be passionate about a lot of things. Like if you said, do you like this anime? I'd probably say yes. Do you like that comic book? I'd probably say, oh, I love that comic book. And do you want to work on a game for all these things? I'd be like, of course I do. So that leads me into a lot of trouble. Like I'm currently today, I think I posted on Blue Sky, like today I have to do these 7 things. And like today is the day for those 7 things. So this is just one of those. This wasn't even on the list of the 7 things I have to do today. Because the 7 things are like deliverables that are due like today or tomorrow or Wednesday. And I just want to be ahead of the game. So see, Banana, I'm taking like your lessons.
Oh.
I've made like a whole spreadsheet of things.
Are we talking time management? I use a daily plan. I don't know if you can all see that. I have to flip it over to the next day. But on my daily plan, yes, I do something similarly where we schedule time block, do all that fun stuff. So
Banana's also very skilled at that because that's like her skill set. Literally is like project managing and what do you got there? Agile, what is it?
Oh, my Scrum
Cascades.
certification?
Scrum,
it's expired now. I gotta renew it. I'm no longer agile.
Not without that certificate, you're not.
Is dexterity your dump
as
stat?
we grow older?
Right?
Yeah.
Dexterity becomes your dump stat. I like that.
It really does.
Speaking of things that you're passionate about, Sen.
Yes.
Now's the point of the podcast where we talk about what we've been reading, watching, consuming, enjoying. So, what is your latest, greatest passion that you hope someone offers you a chance to design a game for?
Oh, fascinating.
Or whatever you're watching.
Yeah. So it's hilarious that you just mentioned this because Jay and I were talking today about why don't we start an Off the Page Games newsletter, because all of our friends in comics have a newsletter where it's like they just say what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what I'm listening to, and then here's all the stuff I'm making and working, and because they got to fill it up with something, but also all those things are influences, right? So anyways, it's fascinating that you asked. So I was thinking about it. I'm listening right now to I actually have to go look at the title of it, but it's basically a re-envisioning of Beauty and the Beast by, I believe, T. Kingfisher. So it's like Bryony and the Roses, I think is what it's called. And it's just this really kind of neat reimagining of Beauty and the Beast that you didn't think about before. So it's not like Belle, but Bryony is like a gardener, and she has to like garden, and the Beast but keeps her because she damages the rose, as we know from the Disney version, is an important thing, right? So she has to I guess, I don't know, I haven't finished it yet, but I'm listening to it, and it's captivating because it's like, where are they going to put these twists that are different than the original, but also the way that she writes is it's just very enthralling. Enthralling is not the right word, because it's kind of this captivating, I think is a better word. Because it's not like thrilling, but it's enthralling and captivating and cozy and just really nice writing. Anyways, I quite enjoy her writing, so that's what I've been reading anyway.
What about you, Banana?
I just saw Longlegs, and I think
I haven't seen it yet.
Nothing happens. I'm not gonna say anything.
Nothing happens.
You could tell me how you feel about it. That's it.
Okay, so I personally really enjoyed it. Other people, I feel like it's a very polarizing experience. You're either going to really love it or really hate it. I haven't met anyone who's just like, it's okay,
right,
or this is nice, or whatever. There's no in between, it feels like. So I am a fan, and in general, I've just been consuming a lot of horror movies, reading some horror here and there too, and I'm also writing a horror screenplay with a friend, so
nice.
Yeah, so I didn't spoil anything about Longlegs, I hope.
No, you didn't.
Okay,
it's
good.
Very neutral. Yeah. Some
Although,
people like it and some people don't.
I thought your post on X the other day was hilarious. I'm not going to mention it because it might it might make Evan mad, so I won't mention it. But it was a really funny post.
There are a lot of, so if you actually, you know what? I don't even know if I should say it because it might spoil it.
Just do it.
Oh, just go ahead and say it. I'll be fine.
Okay, so if you watch the trailer, you're just like, I know nothing about anything that's going on, right? Like when you watch a trailer, I was just like, what the hell? This is nothing. Like, this is
It's like
telling
a
me nothing.
mood atmosphere trailer. It's just trying to tell you what the tone of the movie is.
Exactly. And then after I watched the movie and rewatched the trailer, I was like, this tells me exactly everything about the movie.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it's also an ARG, and like there are all these elements that tie back into the movie that tell you basically everything. So I would say stay away from the ARG, stay away from the trailer if you want to go in with a surprise.
I saw the trailer a while ago, and I remember being like, that looks really interesting, but I don't know anything about it. And I've followed the marketing campaign, or at least what they've been doing a little bit, but haven't like actually seen the material. So
yeah, don't decipher anything. Don't look at any codes. Yep. Yep.
No code.
What about you, Miss Jamie?
Okay, let me tell you about the show I've been watching.
Oh, yes. The show.
So it is a horror show, and it is called From.
And yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen or watched the show? Because
not yet, no.
It is so good. It is essentially like, I would compare it to like Lost in a way, without spoiling anything. It's about a town that as soon as you go into the town, you can never leave. And there are these monster-like things that come out at night. It's like the things that go bump in the night that attack the townspeople. And so I'm not very far in. I'm only on season 1, about like probably 5 episodes in, but it, follows a family who goes into the town, and basically you drive in and you just keep driving in circles. You're like, why can't I leave here? And then it is like, it's given me the heebie-jeebies, not gonna lie. We've got so many windows in this house that I'm constantly like, I don't want to look outside because the windows, or you're not supposed to look out the windows. And anyways,
you might see an old lady.
Exactly. Yes, you might. And it's really addicting, and I'm loving it so far. So that's been my most recent, and I just started One Piece. So I started from episode 1, and now I know I have a long journey ahead of me.
You're going to be like 76 years old before you finish.
Jeez.
Probably, yeah.
It's got,
I hear that I hear
many,
One
many
Piece gets really good once you get into the 300s.
That's actually where I stopped. I stopped while I was reading it, and I stopped reading it around the 300s, just because it's like, really? I don't think I have enough time to spend with this in my life.
Right.
And I have watched a lot more, like, I don't know, 800s and thousands. I don't know anymore.
Isn't it like 1,000 something
yeah,
episodes?
It's a lot.
But they're short. So like you put one on every night for like 1,000 days, and then you're good.
Oh my God. That's
3 years later.
Over 3 years, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. I'll get there eventually. What about you, Evan?
Funny.
Let's see. Movie-wise, I saw the new Quiet Place.
Oh, there's a new one. Right.
Mm-hmm. Which is really a really subtle film.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really enjoyed it a lot, although not a lot happens. I saw kind of an indie horror film called In a Violent Nature.
Oh, yes.
All shot from the perspective of the killer. Have you seen it?
I'm very excited to see it. It's on my list.
I mean, it's an art house film that is punctuated with like some pretty extraordinary violence.
Oh, okay.
Like, almost like over, like okay, really? That's what we're gonna do here? Because you spend a lot of time just watching the guy walk through the woods. To be fair, it's very pretty.
Because you're looking at it through his eyes.
I really liked it, but it's also the kind of horror film I'd probably never watch again. I'm glad I watched it once.
Now, when you say you're watching it like through his eyes, are we seeing him from the outside, or are we like hardcore Harry?
It's kind of it's like his POV, but you're behind him for the most part,
like,
and it does shift
POV.
to focusing on other characters, but only when he is present or kind of around.
Right.
So while you're watching these other people sit around a campfire and talk, you're constantly looking in the background. Like, where is he?
Oh,
is
so it
that
does
him?
shift that way
kind
too.
of thing.
Okay, cool.
So it does shift that way, but for the most part, it's from his POV.
Okay.
So they do a good job with the storytelling. It's really hard to tell a story that way, and they manage to like sneak it in there, and it's not too bad. But
are all 4 of us like horror fans?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
like, how does that? It's interesting because I don't find that often to be true. Like a bunch of people sitting together, like we're all horror fans, and like we're all horror fans. That's a good thing. I like that.
Yeah.
I saw the Ghost in the Shell 2. They reissued. They put that out in theaters again. I went back and seen that. I hadn't seen that for 20 years.
Right.
It's actually pretty good. Probably one of the first animes that introduced computer graphics. Pretty core. My kids were like, "That looked terrible. It was awful." And I was like, "Well, you have to understand. This is the first time they've ever done anything like this."
2004. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
There's not a hint of Scarlett Johansson in it either.
I know. I'm reading Gideon Falls by Jeff Lemire.
Yep. Good book.
It's like a horror comic.
Mm-hmm.
Also reading Lone Wolf and Cub, which is really good, but also kind of a slog. Like, it's a lot. Like, I'm in like the second edition.
Yes, but also imagine that if it was like One Piece and it was very short.
Yeah,
right.
That's basically what it is.
No, but the action in it is like expanded, right? So it's not compressed. The action is like expanded over several pages. Like in real life, it would have taken like 5 seconds of anime time to do the 5 pages that they drew, because it's just epic and wild samurai fights, really, right? So and it's classic. That is a visceral, classic, seminal piece of work. So
incredible detail, research, the Edo period in Japan. Lone Wolf and Cub, by the way, is about an assassin who goes around with a baby
in a cart,
and that's like in a cart. And the cart, it's like a wooden cart that has like secret like knives and stuff all stashed in it,
spears in the handles.
And then the baby gets involved, and like the assassin, the dad, essentially is just like, all right, Dagoro, I think his name is Dagoro.
Yeah, Dagoro is the son.
Yeah, he's like, okay, Dagoro, I'm going to leave you here, and you might die. So toughen up and be a samurai baby.
Yeah, pretty much.
Was the whole Baby Yoda thing inspired by this?
Yes, 100%.
That makes sense.
I mean, the template is of like a mercenary who goes around on adventures with a child that he's kind of responsible for, who then gets involved in things. So yes, it is very much the template. I mean, in Lone Wolf and Cub and a lot of that stuff, like Kurosawa, were all templates for spaghetti westerns, and so
which is very much a template for Star Wars,
Mandalorian. So it all kind of, it's actually pretty genius that they took that as an inspiration.
It's fun.
So anyway, that's some of the stuff I've been enjoying.
Yay!
Oh. Awesome. So the listeners will know we do a word of the month, but this month it's a term because it's actually 2 words. But I wanted to pick something that was relevant to RPGs because, well, you'll find out soon what the game of the month is. But the term is one shot. And I am going to throw it over to Banana or Sen, who would ever like to take it, just to explain what a one shot is, because I feel like it's something that, we talk about RPGs, people are like, oh, no, it's not a campaign, it's just a one shot. And then some people are like, I don't know what that means. So I'm going to throw it over to you guys. What is one shot?
Yeah, a one shot is a low commitment session of an RPG, so a tabletop RPG. So usually when you hear about RPGs, you think like, a campaign which can last for, some campaigns have lasted for like decades, right? A one shot is basically just one session. You can play it within, I don't know, as short as 2 hours, as long as 4 hours. And after that session is done, you're done. And you don't have to worry about it. I mean, like, you might talk about it afterwards and debrief with your friends, but usually the session contains the story pretty well. So it feels more like, like a movie, right? Rather than a TV show that spans over years and years or something like that.
That's a very good way of describing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because it's like a one impactful episode or time experience, right? So you have your character creation. Often you don't actually even create your characters. Sometimes they're just like pre-generated characters that the GM, DM, narrator, whatever has already created for you that will fit right into this story well. And then you just are usually learning the rules for the first time too. A lot of one shots are very much, let's teach you how to play this game in the 4 hours that we have with you. And so they go on, not on rails, but a lot of it is like pre-thought out by the adventure writer or GM so that it does fit within a short, self-contained time span. And so they're really good for introducing people to newer games. And there's actually whole podcasts and series, actual plays that revolve around, we're just going to play a new game every episode. And it's great because then the listeners and viewers get exposure to things that aren't the Dragon game. I mean, not everything has to be 5e, right? So
Right.
Yeah, and like you said, Sen, it's great for introducing new players. So it is definitely like a tool that a lot of publishers have used at conventions to show off their newest game. Or it's been great for strangers, or even like people have been playing forever, but they only get around to playing a game at a convention, and they only have like this specific time slot to play said game. And so it's a great way for folks to just like spend that time playing this one game. Oh, we're done, let's move on to the next thing, and get like a whole lot of different experiences that way.
Awesome.
Low commitment, high impact.
Yeah.
They are my favorite kinds of RPGs to play. I was just on vacation with my kids, and we played Fiasco. So
Yeah.
Fiasco by nature is every time you play Fiasco, you're playing like a one shot because Fiasco does not go beyond the singular event by design.
As we have mentioned previously, this is a podcast where we talk about games and all kinds of wonderful things related to games, but also it's a podcast that is sponsored by Ryder Games. So we like to feature a game of the week, the game of the month each month. So this episode, our game, naturally, is the game that Sen and Banana designed and we published, called The Revenant Society.
I was going to say, don't share, really?
So, Sen, Banana, would one of you like to talk about, give kind of a high-level pitch for the Revenant Society?
Sure. Imagine you're all dead and you don't know why, and you're playing the game to figure out why you died. It's like undead detectives trying to figure out their own murder. That's in a time loop, right? Which is really more interesting than it sounds. It's actually really fun. So Banana made the whole time loop mechanic. And we had thought of, I don't know why we thought about this, Banana. And this is a very common thing when we're on podcasts. We kind of have to figure out, like, why did we do this in the first place? And part of it was just because I had got this notion about when we dig down in the earth that we release bad things, right? And so at the time, and we still are, I believe, Banana and I are still very fascinated around like the early 20th century. So like 1910, 1920, 1930, our games tend to be in that time period. For some reason, we think about that in a very romantic way. And so Art Deco, Art Nouveau, that kind of styling, really for some reason we enjoy. And so what was happening around that time in the world, just in general, was the invention of subways. And so we decided to kind of talk about, well, what if, by digging in the earth to build subways, bad things or weird things happened. Banana also has a passion for like hellmouths, things that open into hell.
They just happen.
They just happen in your backyard. Yeah. The whole
Banana
city
has
of
a
Paris.
passion for hellmouths.
Yeah,
I feel like that should be like printed on a T-shirt.
It should.
Like you should make bumper stickers of that.
Paul, give you love hellmouth.
Yeah.
Hellmouth.
Yeah,
Hellmouth lover.
Yeah, you just never know when one's going to open up, right? That's the most fascinating thing about them. But yeah, like definitely the whole 1920s, 1910s like era is really interesting. I think we were also talking about like Art Deco, Art Nouveau. We were talking about just the idea of like trying to have agency over one's own death and trying to figure out like how that happened and how does that impact like the timeline, right? So we also talked about like, what if there was a shattering event that's correlated to all of these different deaths, and if they can solve like the big bad problem, then they can move on and do whatever moving on means to them. Yeah, we thought a lot about like the paranormal stuff. We thought a lot about like, what is the next step after Zhangshi? Oh, revenants. Revenants are cool. And so I think that, we were talking a lot about like what does limbo look like? It's sort of like a waiting room. We have like Greta as our NPC NPC demon who's stuck at like the demon DMV who just like gives out clues and tries to push people in the right direction. It was a lot of fun just like working on this. And it's also powered by the Apocalypse, which is like one of my favorite systems. So yeah, it's very cool.
And Evan, you'll like this. We had been doing some research around this, and because we had thought about Paris and the catacombs and the because of if you study Art Nouveau, you know that the Paris Metro, the signs are all like Art Nouveau stuff, and it's just really cool. Anyway, that got me to think about, I don't know why, but Rumor, which is like, where there's the very first detective novel, and this is important for you, Evan, because you made the game called Detective, was by Edgar Allan Poe. And it was
in the Rue Morgue.
Right, there you go. Right. And so this all kind of just gelled and connected for us in our brain that, oh yeah, this game has to happen in Paris in the 1910s, around when the metro was getting built and there were like breakdowns in the lines and there were all sorts of accidents. And then this whole detective stuff came into the part where it's like, oh yeah, you're detectives solving your own murder, although you're not like hired as detectives, but you have to solve your own, the crime that was committed that ended in your death. Mm-hmm. Whether or not you're important in that death is not actually important. It's the fact that you solved that because, as Banana said, that's the shattering event. And so in the lore, a shattering event is an event that will inextricably change like the laws of heaven and hell and limbo and all that kind of stuff. And the forces, we don't even know what they are. We've never written them. But the forces that run limbo, other than Greta, don't want that to happen. And so they send undead agents back to make sure that these events don't happen, to keep the balance of power, right? Otherwise, either heaven or hell will take over. And that's not necessarily good for anybody, I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't know. We don't know these stories yet. We're making them as we go along in a lot of ways, just like everybody else.
Yep.
Yeah. There was this really interesting poem that we found as well that had something to do with like Paris. And I have completely forgotten all context about this poem or who the poet was or anything like that. But I do remember that they referred to Paris, like a specific area of Paris, as hell. And so it was like l'enfer something, and I just like can't find.
The Inferno, right?
Yeah. Or was it? Yeah, I don't remember where it is, but like I think we noted it down in the actual document as well, the manuscript that we wrote.
Perfect place for a hellmouth to open up.
I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, now is our newish segment called The Final Girl Files, which is it's The Final Girl Files, which is a part of the Fear of the Final Girl podcast. You know what? We should do an Inception thing.
Yes.
Where then there's like another Final Girl-esque segment that's within the Final Girl Files segment. So like we just keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper into like little miniature podcasts.
I'll get a little spinning top and then you tell me if we're in Inception.
Anyway, so this is the portion of the podcast where we discuss Final Girl specifically, which is the solo horror-themed role. I was about to say role-playing game, not role-playing game. Horror solo-themed board game that we publish, which inspired the name of the podcast, and many people seem to like it. And so we are going to be discussing all kinds of different things about Final Girl. And today we are going to specifically be discussing how we go about developing a feature film, which is like a new expansion for the game. Obviously, as I'm one of the co-designers on the game, I've done this a bunch. Jamie, however, is also designing and developing a feature film. And
Yes.
so you will have two perspectives. You will have Jamie, who's just getting started, and me, who's done it a bunch. So Jamie, what has been your process for beginning to brainstorm, design a feature film?
So I think, like, for me, I wanted to think of something like different that we haven't already done, because that's obviously, Evan's mentioned it before in a previous episode, that we want something different. You can't have every set be the same. So I'm obviously not going to say what the set is because it hasn't been announced yet. But I tried to think of some different kind of like mechanics in terms of how the killer would work, maybe a different location, different ways to use item cards. So I think that's kind of where I started. I looked at my list of 1,000 ideas and narrowed it down to a few, and I'll be co-designing with Julie. So that's another part of it, to make sure that she and I are kind of aligned on the ideas and everything and sharing that. But that's basically where I started. I looked at the big list and I was like, okay, what haven't we done yet that would be interesting enough that somebody would be excited about it? And also a little bit like cheeky and a little bit familiar maybe for people. I'm not as serious of like a horror movie. Like, I like fun horror. So that's kind of what I lean towards, I guess.
What, so far in doing it, what problems have you run into, or what do you find has been the most difficult?
I think just in the same of like thinking of, it needs to be different. Like, making sure that there's some kind of like a unique mechanic within it that we haven't already done, because there's already 11 sets out. A lot of things have been done. And so trying to get creative in different aspects of it, I think it's the most challenging part, but it's also like, obviously it's fun because it's the problem solving part, to be like, okay, well, we already have this location that has this mechanic, but that's what I want it to do. So how can we do this similar thing, but using a different kind of mechanic that is going to make it interesting? But I think that's the challenge. And I don't know that people know that there's so many little details within each feature film. Like, there's Easter eggs in them. There's like the item cards you have to think about, the location. And then you also need to think about, how is that location or that killer going to work in other locations and with other killers, because it can't just work in one feature film. So it's like a puzzle.
Yeah, so there's probably something around the order of 40 to 50 individual cards you have to design for any given feature film.
Yeah.
And sometimes when the feature film requires a unique mechanism that might have a whole new deck of cards, well, then you're designing even more. But at the baseline, you've got 10 event cards, you've got 18 item cards, give or take, you've got 24 terror cards. These are all individual things that have to be designed. So it's
and the final girls as well, like, because they have to be relatively unique. Now I know, like, they all kind of share, like, oh, you need to save the victims, but they have to have some kind of a fun special ability. And I think, like, what if this killer is going to work perfectly with this location, and then you throw in Kinyamba in there and you're like, oh, this doesn't work as well. So it's a lot.
Thankfully the game system, it's able to handle like a certain level of brokenness to it. So if you create one final girl who's like super awesome against the poltergeist, well, hey, that's fine. She can just be super overpowered against the poltergeist, but you can play other girls against the poltergeist if you want to challenge. So the system is flexible enough that it accepts a certain level of brokenness. So we don't have to constantly anticipate, like, this is not a game that is evenly balanced at all.
Right.
Nor was it ever intended to be. It's supposed to be thematic and create emergent narrative and be all over the place and not be like this perfectly fine-tuned, balanced Euro game exercise where, no. Sometimes it's going to go off the rails and the game's going to kick you in the balls, and it's hopefully going to be entertaining when it happens, but there's nothing you can do about it. And that's kind of the part of the appeal of it.
Totally. Like, I mean, even in our Discord, there's like a weekly challenge where the Discord members come up with, you know, a pairing that you need to do. And this episode will come out much later, but the pairing that they just did was Poltergeist at the Sacred Groves. And they forced me to play it on stream. And I was like, there's not a chance I'm going to survive this, because it's such a like difficult pairing. But I think like the beauty of it is when you win, it feels just so good, because you're like, what are the odds that I've done this? So yeah, I think people are cool with that.
Yeah, I did not win playing Poltergeist at Sacred Groves. I lost.
I did both. I won and I lost.
For me, for my design process, I generally think I'm a very experiential designer. So I design for experiences. When I read a book or watch a movie or play a video game or something and have a specific kind of experience with that piece of media, I'm constantly going, is there a way for me to translate that experience to a board game? Mm-hmm. Can I recreate the feeling I got from watching this movie as much as I can in a board game? Mm-hmm. And so that's often what I'm doing with the feature films I design. I'm looking for, I want it to feel like this movie or this thing that you might have seen or experienced. So initially it involves me thinking through, okay, why do I love this thing? What is it that I love about it? Okay, now what specific mechanics can kind of bring that feeling to life? So right now I'm working on one. I won't tell you what it is, but I'll tell you what the mechanism, the core mechanism of the killer is hidden movement, which is incredibly difficult to do in a one-player solo game, like a solo game, because most hidden movement games involve another human player secretly moving around the board, and a big part of the game is the psychological cat and mouse of where would they have gone? Would they have gone there? Would they have gone there? And when you kind of introduce a level of like programming to it removes some of that. So I'm currently trying to do that. But once I kind of find a mechanism that I think works with it, and I think I have one that at least will get as close as possible to simulating hidden movement as I can get. Once I get that, I basically have a notebook that I just write all my ideas down in, and I sketch it out. I literally write down all the ideas for the tarot cards, the event cards, the item cards, and just sketch the ideas out, cross things out, keep going. So it's like just like this brainstorm process.
Interesting.
So.
Yeah.
So, and then I'll even sketch out the board. I'll like write out the board and draw it in pencil and draw the little spaces. And what's interesting is that usually the final board is almost exactly the same as whatever my scratchy little drawing was in my notebook. They don't change very often usually. So once I get it right in my notebook, it's usually going to be, it'll be what's in the final often.
Right. So when
something doesn't really break.
When you start, like, and you have that feeling, like, are you starting typically based off of a killer, or are you starting off of, like, a location? Are you, like, or is it just theme in general that you're kind of like, okay, well, I want to do this theme, and so here's a movie or something that I've experienced that kind of fits with this killer. Like, where do you start with that?
To me, it's like, I love that movie.
Yeah.
I want to make that movie into a Final Girl feature film. How do I do that? Right. That's oftentimes what it is. It's usually not like, hey, I need a Final Girl that has hidden movement.
Right.
I'm just going to do it. And then I go and find something that kind of fits that. No, it's for me, it's always the other way around. It's like, oh, that's a killer or a movie villain that a big part of them is being hidden, and the characters don't know where they are, and they think they see things because it's invisible or whatever. And then I'll be like, okay, now how do I translate that into Final Girl mechanisms?
Right.
It's almost all that way. Early on in my design career, I tried designing that way, where I was just like, this would be a cool mechanism. Like, this would be a cool mechanism. And I would start developing that way. And those games always felt lifeless to me. I don't do them well. So I don't design Euro games well.
Right.
Because oftentimes whenever I hit a wall, what I fall back on is the thematic integration. So if something's not working right, I'll just go back to, well, okay, what, so for example, I designed a game called Detective City of Angels. And oftentimes in that, it would be like, this isn't working. This movement around the board isn't working. And I would immediately go back to, well, what would a detective in 1940s Los Angeles actually do? How would they actually move? And oftentimes that will be the inspiration and the impetus for me to kind of get over the design hurdle and either fix a mechanism or introduce new mechanisms that are going to work. But if I don't have that strong thematic connection to fall back on, I don't work as well. So I've learned to really rely on that.
Yeah, I think that lends itself really well to Final Girl, because that the whole point is that like you're living the game. Like you are the final girl. Like, so you need to feel everything, and it can't just be like, oh, well, I'm rolling a die and I guess now I'm moving. And it's like, no, like you're surviving or trying to. Yeah.
Oh, another thing I do in my process is I will often go back and watch either movie or movies that are kind of forming some of the inspiration for it and actually take note. Like if it's been a while since I've seen them, I'll be like, oh, in that movie there was a cat that did this one thing. Okay, I can put a cat in mine that'll do something similar, something like that. So and that's one of the things that really I think appeals to people who play the game. Is all of those little Easter eggs and connections to things are super genuine, because as the designers of the game, especially for AJ and I mean, we love horror films. And I think that love and passion for the genre comes through in the game. And we continue to design feature films with that same passion in mind. So I think that's a big part of why the game has been successful.
Yeah, I know for the one that we're working on, I don't want to like obviously give anything away, but some of my favorite movies ever, so rewatching them is like perfect. Like I'm excited to rewatch this. And when at Gen Con, Julie and I are going to have a movie night, we're going to watch The Inspiration, and then we're going to work on it together. So yeah, I think I like that I want
to watch.
Yeah,
I know what the movie is.
But there's two movies.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know what one of them is.
Yeah. So anyways, I love that you can like, that's what I meant like earlier when I said there's a little bit of like cheekiness in it, and there's a little bit of like nostalgia sometimes, or, you know, familiarity, because if you put something in the game, you know, obviously we would never say straight out, oh, this game is based on this movie, but there's like obviously going to be nods to the movies that inspired different versions or feature films.
Yeah, we do a lot of homage.
Exactly. Love stories.
Yes. So that's a very loose breakdown of how we design feature films. So, which is a super scientific, rigid process, clearly.
Clearly.
And not just a throw a bunch of stuff in a pot and chuck it at the wall and see what sticks.
Yep.
So join us next time when we will discuss more Final Girl goodness.
Yes. Okay, so moving into the main topic, like I said, today we're chatting about past lives. Have you ever wondered what you might have been in a previous life, or perhaps you felt an inexplicable connection to a particular time period, which it sounds like a few people here do. The concept of past lives has fascinated humans just for centuries, appearing in countless cultures and belief systems around the world. So let's chat about that and chat about how that is integrated into the Revenant Society. So let's just start off with the obvious question. Who here believes in the concept of past lives, and why or why not?
I'm just going to say I do. I'm going to throw it out there.
I don't know. I don't know if I believe in them or not. That's interesting. I think it's a fascinating concept. I think it's a really interesting psychological concept that, you know, forging connections, finding connections in the past. But also, I think the human capacity to find meaning where there is none is unparalleled.
It really is.
It's just quite phenomenal what people can believe is meaningful. But also, who knows? I'm also like super agnostic. So I believe there's a higher power. I just don't know what it is and what it's going to do to us. It could be a tentacle-faced, God that will destroy everything. It could also be, a very happy dude with a beard. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know these things.
I think I believe in it not so much as like there is a religious higher power or whatever, but like I feel like the soul or like the energy of like a person just like hops from one person to another, sort of like, Freaky Friday style.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So that's what I'm more thinking of rather than like there is this, I don't know, weird hell mouth or demon pool or I don't know, clouded, misty area where all the, dead people live. Like, I feel like it's just like, oh, okay, we just hop into another body or whatever. Sort of like how generational trauma sort of like exists from body to body. That's sort of like how I think of it.
So your notion of past lives, Banana, doesn't necessarily relate to like karma or but how you do in this life dictates what you become in the next one and vice versa?
No, not really.
Like the Buddhist kind of
Yeah.
impression of it.
So just like the soul is energy, and it's the energy is powerful enough that it's not gonna dissipate. It's gonna move on to something else.
Yeah. I think it's like whatever is closest, it'll just end up being there. Like once you die.
What about you, Evan?
Do not believe in past lives, but I come from a very Judeo-Christian background, so I'm also. I've spent a lot of time deconstructing my faith, but that deconstruction has not led me so far as to believe in past lives. So it hasn't gone quite that far.
Right.
Who knows? Give me another 5 years of deconstruction and maybe I'll 100% be there, because I definitely am way, way more Buddhist now than ever before in my life previously. So
Right.
So obviously, like, the concept or the experience of deja vu is one thing that people are like, oh, well, I had deja vu. Is this like something that's been triggered because of this past life or these past experiences? So I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on the deja vu experience and how that could potentially relate to even the energy piece, Banana, like you mentioned?
Isn't that just when the machines reprogram the Matrix?
Right.
I thought that. I mean, it kind of is because it's sleep deprivation, isn't it? Like it's basically like people experience deja vu when they're like sleep deprived. So I mean, maybe it's just like us as like organisms that need sleep. We're just like we need to like reboot for a sec.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's the technical explanation for deja vu is like it's not an error with memory, it's an error in like processing, fact checking. Like that I've seen that before. You did not. You just think you did, right? That's what science would say, psychology would say that. But I've totally had experiences where like I totally did that before. But sometimes you have. And things just happen again in a very similar pattern, right? It's like, oh, this pattern existed before. My brain is built to remember things. Like I just don't forget lots of things. And so I know if I have that weird deja vu feeling that it probably did happen before, but it's not some like weird fatalistic magical thing. It's just the pattern of the events happen in this order. And my brain is just recognizing the similar pattern. At least that's what I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
There are times when I've had very lucid dreams that during the day, the next day, there will be moments where I will be like, wait, was that a dream or did that happen to me?
Yeah.
And I've experienced it both ways where I'll think about it and be like, no, that was a dream. And then I'll think about it and be like, no, that actually happened to me the other day.
Right.
But that's just my life. So
yeah. I know some people who are like, well, deja vu, it's parallel universe. That's just what I'm doing in the next universe over. And I'm like, whoa, it's just very, I was like, all right, whatever, Spider-Man. All right, cool.
There is a very good comic called Regression. It's by Cullen Bunn, who was the a writer of the game, of the comic Harrow County that Jay and Shad made into a game for Off the Page Games. And he wrote a comic called Regression, and the art is like brilliant. It's by Danny, I can't remember Danny's last name, but it's brilliant. If you have show notes, go find it and look it up. But it's a really cool comic. So if you have a chance, go read it. It's fascinating. It's funny. I'm wearing one of Marie's shirts. So Marie Enger is one of the colorists on that. Is the colorist for that comic, which is hilarious. As I forgot that. Danny Luckert's the artist, and it is like brilliant and gross and scary and horrifying and all those things all at once. So highly recommended if you like comics and you like horror that's not necessarily gory. But it's just really kind of like that creeps you out and that messes you up a little bit. Cullen is a great writer, so go look at his stuff. He did that. Empty Man was script, one of his comics or one of his short stories, I think, that got made into a movie. Unfortunately, during the pandemic, so it did not get a lot of the looks that it probably deserves. So it's one of those.
The Empty Man is so good.
Yeah,
it's very good.
If you ever read any of the director's comments about how that came out and came to be at the end, it's really fascinating.
Oh, cool! No, I haven't. I'll have to go find out.
He found out when the movie was releasing when he saw the trailer online, and he saw the completed film for the first time in the theater. He had never seen it with the sound mix before because.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
The fact that the movie. The fact that the movie is as good as it is a miracle, given that it basically just got shelved and put into a dustbin and then somehow still worked really well.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, the power of that movie. No, I mean that's exactly what we're talking about. Things we like and all the creators we enjoy and all that kind of stuff too. And horror and regression and past lives. It all links up.
Yeah,
Didn't we have this talk just a little while ago?
Yeah, I thought I remembered that.
Deja vu.
So my last question before Evan we could play Evan's fun game is
Ooh, so fun.
I'm really curious about how the concept of past lives and just figuring, because that's a really, if you think about, a big part of the Revenant Society, because you're trying to figure out who was I before and how did I die. So how does the concept of past lives and how did that influence the gameplay and the story building for you two?
Yeah, I think the concept is more of like when we think of past lives, we also think about who were we before we are now. And that's more of what Revenant Society is about. It's who were you before you entered this realm? Who were you? What did you do? What were some of the terrible things that you've done before? And how do you, upon learning about the terrible things that you've done that you might have forgotten about, how do you reconcile with that stuff? And how do you work together with your team who might have just remembered that stuff as well about you? And so I think that a large part of Revenant Society is about who were we years and years ago, and how are we different now, and how do we make up for it, and how do we try to be better moving forward, so that way we can come together and figure out this weird time loop thing and move forward. So yeah, I think that's pretty relevant to how things are right now, with how folks react to people on the internet, especially larger accounts on whatever social media platform. It's people digging up information about who a person was before, is it relevant to who they are now? So that's a lot of stuff that I was thinking about. Sen, what were you thinking about?
Oh, with past lives? Yeah. I actually wasn't thinking about past lives, because I think about past lives more I myself now think that I was a lieutenant in the colonial army of Great Britain 300 years ago.
Right.
And
You
in
think
Revenant
about it in the
Society-
fun way.
Yeah, and in Revenant Society, well, I don't know if colonization is not that fun. In Revenant Society, I mean, if you're the colonizer, maybe. In Revenant Society, you are dead, and you were who you were. You just don't know who you were.
Right.
And so it is kind of past livey, but it's not past life in the way I think about past lives. Not that I do that a lot, but so I never really thought about it. So it's a really good question to me to say, well, is that a past life?
Did you
I
watch
guess
the movie Past Lives? Oh, sorry.
No. Is it
It's
good?
very good. It's
Should I
so
watch it?
good.
Who's
You
in
should
it?
watch it. No, like indie actors. It's like an indie
Okay.
movie.
I-
Yeah, so it's an
I'm kind
indie
of down
movie.
with that because
Yeah.
I like indie movies.
And
So
it's not
Just-
supernatural. It's just like romantic and sad.
oh well, you know, I said this the other day, and Banana's like, "Why'd you say that?" Banana and I met over sad things, and she's like, "Sen, we really didn't." It's like, well, we actually did, because a lot of times we would just. It's always this thing like sad reacts only type thing, and we'd just like comment on each
yeah.
other's posts, and that's kind of how we got connected to each other, was through sadness and sad boy stuff. So it's not like we're totally depressed; we're just kind of depressed.
It's a healthy depression.
There's a differentiation.
Just a
between
reasonable amount of
clinically-
depression.
Yeah.
Totally.
So my clinical depression is totally different than my day-to-day depression. So I don't know. I don't know if I think this is like those past lives in the classical sense, or if it's like past lives in a different sense. But I do think the exploration of who you were and finding out that, that question, like, am I the baddie, is a really cool thing in a game form where you have some preconceived notion, but then the GM says, but wait, there's more. You are actually, the person who propagated this whole bad thing happening. You're part of this. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. But if I don't stop it, then I'm going to cease to exist, or I'm going to keep in this loop forever, reliving this death throw that we have going on. So it's, I think both are legitimate ways to think about death and about, could you undo the bad things in your life? And what would you do if you did know that you did some bad things in your life? Would you change that, or can you change it? Is there redemption after death? Is an interesting thing, and there's obviously a lot of comic books and stories about that. Like Dead Man, that's his entire thing. His entire oeuvre is making up for things that happened. Not that he did them, but he helps people to unmake mistakes that they would make. Right.
Right.
So I think that's fascinating. I think death is a really interesting thing, and it's also funny. Like, I never felt this way before I was, maybe 40, and I didn't have a midlife crisis, but I mean, maybe this is my midlife crisis, right? Is like thinking about mortality and death and all these weird things that I didn't think about when I was a younger man, so fresh and full of life, and everything was in front of me, and life was good. And now I'm old and decrepit, and I'm looking back and thinking that was cool. What's ahead of me? Death.
Good times.
Good times.
ahead, yeah.
But I mean, really, when you think about it, I find horror so interesting, much more interesting now than I did when I was younger. Like, I grew up in the 80s, right? So I did not like slasher horror. I did not like Freddy and Michael and all those Jason. I mean, I watched them because they were cultural touchstones, but I wasn't like into it, and I didn't like it as much as a lot of my other friends. But then I started really liking like existential horror and stuff as I got older, and that kind of horror really makes me ask questions about things, whereas the other type of horror just says like, oh yeah, there's blood and guts, whatever. It doesn't really move me in the same way. So again, I wonder if it's because I'm getting older. I think there's something about that. I'll have to go put myself on a couch and talk to myself later. Why do you think you like death so much, then? As he wears like a Grim Reaper shirt with like an RIP on it.
Send the licensed therapist therapizing himself.
Yeah.
And on that cheery note, we
Have we got to play the game?
We have a game to play.
Yay!
This is called Designers Read Mean Reviews. And the points will be awarded if you can figure out what game the mean review was about. So I'm going to send you over chat. I'm going to give you guys easy ones first. All right. here comes yours. This is yours, Sen. This is your first one. So go ahead and read this out loud. This is a real review of a game you were a designer on.
But I'm only gonna take half the blame because I believe this was something that somebody else helped me design.
Yes,
I used to enjoy playing with blocks like this. Then I turned 4. That is for Junkard. 100% for Junkard.
Correct. That was for
100%
Junkard.
Jay's fault. No, I'm kidding.
Good job.
50% Jay's fault.
All right, 1 point for Sen. All right, Banana. Here is yours. Now, Banana, I had to tweak it a bit, and some of these games are games that you were a publisher for and not necessarily a direct designer for. I figured that you had enough involvement in the development process that you can kind of own the badness of the review.
I thought you were just gonna say these are just comments that I've made up on the spot. They're
No, these are real comments made up by other people. Ready?
Yes. Betrayal, but much worse. Wait a second. That's just betrayal.
No. Really, get the context clues here.
Betrayal, but much worse. Okay. All right. Okay.
If my research is correct, you had a little more involvement in one of these games than another one.
Oh, okay. So is it Scooby-Doo Betrayal?
Now, Banana, what's the actual name of the game?
Oh my god, I have to actually... Here's the thing.
She didn't name it.
I might have a little bit of an issue trying to remember this. Scooby-Doo... Is it Betrayal at Mystery Mansion?
Yes!
Okay,
is.
all right.
Betrayal at Mystery Mansion. And you were the lead haunt writer for that, right?
Yes.
All right, but there were a lot of other people who wrote that, so who knows if this person, when they gave that review, had played one of your haunts or someone else's? Who knows?
Probably somebody else's.
It was most likely mine, but yeah.
All right, Sen.
Yes.
Here's your next one.
I got the chat open.
I'll give you a point for that one, Banana. That's your first one. You get a point too. So 1-1. All right, here you go, Sen.
This extremely dull bag of pointlessness offers no moments of joy. If you want to solve a math puzzle by trying something interesting, try something interesting like a calculus problem. No fun not included. Okay. Let's see.
This one's probably going to be pretty hard.
What has math in it?
I'm going to say... Is this Orphan Black?
It is not Orphan Black.
Oh, what is it?
This
I want to know.
is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, your first published design.
Oh, is this... Oh, that's funny. Is that Train of Thought?
That's your first published? It's not... No, this is Belfort.
Oh, that's weird. That's a weird comment for Belfort. I can see
Is Belfort your first published design?
No, Belfort was our first signed design, but it was not our first published design. Because Train of Thought is just a bunch of cards, so it was really fast.
Okay, right, yeah.
So it was the first actually published.
All right, next one, Banana.
Yeah, let's do it.
Here we go.
Is it another betrayal one? I cannot, for the life of me, figure out what this game is or how to play it well. This does not give me any clues.
Listen, people leave negative reviews. They're not super verbose. They're just vomiting their feelings onto the internet.
They really are.
This could be anything. Can I have a clue? Can I call it friends?
This is a game that you published. This isn't one that you have a design credit on.
Is it Judge Dredd Block War?
It is not Judge Dredd Block War. That's a good guess, though. It is Yay Diamonds.
Oh! Well, yeah, I take no blame for that.
All right. 1 point Sen, 1 point Banana. Still 1-1. All right. Next is... Okay, here you go, Sen.
All right.
This one is going to be similar to the one I just gave Banana, unless you are the kind of person who goes and reads negative comments on your reviews. You're probably going to have a hard time with this one. But
that is not healthy. That's not a healthy way to live. I'd give it a 0 if I could.
This is hard.
Oh, they're harsh too.
I'd
give it a 0 if I could. Let's see. Is that... I don't know. Is that... I'm just gonna say I'm gonna look at my wall of games. Is that Batman Rogues Gallery?
It is not Batman's Rogues Gallery.
What is it?
It is. Oh, I just chastised Banana for not knowing the full name of the game. It is. It's the Shining. It's the Shining game. The Overlook Hotel or whatever.
Yeah. So Escape from the Overlook Hotel. So caveat on that one. Is that, when it went to print, they changed some very important things that they didn't ask us to change, if they should change it or not, and that messes up all the puzzles.
I gathered that from reading some of the other comments on there.
Yes.
that I was just like, oh, this is probably not actually could be attributed to Sen.
Unfortunately, no.
Right.
I mean, it reflects poorly, but it also is really, we couldn't have done anything about it.
All right, Banana.
Yes.
Here's your next one. It's still 1-1. It's anyone's game.
I don't even have the heart to eBay this one. It's going to the bin. Okay. All right.
There is a context clue in here.
Bin. This is a British buyer.
Oh.
This has to be Judge Dredd Block War.
It is Judge Dredd Block War. Good job. You got the British context.
You have 2 points.
Yes. Banana now has 2 points. All right, this is your last one, Sen.
Okay,
you have a chance to tie it up or completely blow it.
Yes. If I blow it, Banana just wins automatically.
Here we go. This is my this is my favorite one. I also love that when you read this, we don't even know which designer they're talking about.
Oh, I think I know this was. Yes. This is totally disappointed when we played it. Then I met one of the designers, and he successfully lowered my opinion even more. That was my management. That's my management.
Hey,
and that is
correct.
Totally a story that Jay told me.
What happened?
Well, do you want to know?
I want that story from Jay now, or you can tell it.
No, get it from Jay.
Yeah, okay.
Get it from Jay. It's a good story.
Wow.
I was like, knowing it was my management and knowing Jay's the one who's out there pushing it all the time, I was like, this is definitely about Jay.
Jay punched someone.
Jay punched. Let's start the rumor here and now.
That's right.
True,
we all know Jay, Sen's lifelong friend and co-designer, is a violent man who just lashes out at everyone around.
He likes horror movies. He loves.
He does.
Jay,
all right,
Secret Slasher.
it's 2-2.
Is Secret Slasher a name of a thing we can make as a game? Because it should be.
That sounds like a cool game. Let's make that game.
Let's make that game, Secret Slasher. It's much
all
better
right,
than
Banana.
Whatever else.
It's tied 2-2. This is the last one.
Oh, yeah,
this is your chance to blow it.
Okay.
Tiebreaker.
There you go. Ready?
Focus, Banana, focus. Can I like razz her? Like she's throwing a free throw?
The best part of this game was putting it away and back on the shelf where it will never see the light of day again. Oh God. Okay, so this is hard too because that gives me no clues. Is it an RPG or a board game?
It's an RPG.
Ooh.
Is it?
It's one you're more responsible for, not one that you were one of 18 writers on.
Is it Deimos Academy?
No, it's not.
What?
That is one of the only reviews that exists currently for An Exquisite Crime.
Oh!
Interesting.
Huh. Okay, cool.
Which, Sen, did you say you were a part of working on that one? Yeah, so you guys can share that one.
We can share that one. That's awesome.
Well,
that's really funny.
2-2. It's a tie. You guys both...
We equally suck.
Yes.
That's awesome.
But if it makes anyone feel better, I have one for Evan that I'm going to put in the chat. So there you go, Evan.
The whole thing feels like a game jotted down on notepaper cooked up by kids in their bedroom. Wow.
I mean, it could also have been that.
I only have 3 technical design credits, so this has to be detective.
No.
What?
It's not detective?
Nope.
Then it's got to be Final Girl.
Nope.
Is it Dark Moon?
Yes.
Dark Moon? Oh, jeez. Wow. Man, I couldn't even...
I could see it saying...
cut.
No, I could see it saying, this whole thing feels like a game that used to be Battlestar Galactica.
Right, exactly.
Everything else that I found, it was like formerly known as Battlestar Galactica. There is nothing about Battlestar Galactica. So I'm like, well, I can't use those. So you're going to know what game it is.
This whole thing feels like a game jotted down on note paper, cooked up by kids in their bedroom. Wow.
I just want to give your kids a whole bunch of paper and make a game.
I know.
Oh, that's amazing.
What I love about so many of these reviews is like, you'll have no idea what goes into game design.
But also, the thing that I like about a lot of these is they're actually pretty funny.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, where it will never see the light of day again.
To be fair, you have to dig through a lot. Most of the reviews are pretty, like, they're talking about the mechanics, and it's like they're not really interesting. So I definitely cherry-picked the most. Some people are really entertaining when they write negative reviews, others not so much.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that is the episode that we have for today. So thank you so much to Banana and Sen for joining us. It was a pleasure having you both. Before we leave, let the people know where they can find you, or if there's something that you kind of have exciting on the horizon that you want people to watch out for.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. You can find me on all the internet spaces at Banana Chan Games. You can find my little RPG publishing company, Read Write Memory, at Read Write Memory, on the same platforms probably, except for Mastodon.
Would you say that again? What is that exactly?
Yes.
Say it again.
Read Write Memory. So,
Read Write Memory.
Yes.
Okay.
So instead of Read Only Memory, because we found out that was taken, we chose Read Write Memory, which I think is equally as cool, if not more. And what am I working on right now? We have Jiangshi coming out soon, the second printing on the crowdfunding campaign thing. The backer kit, that's the one. I was like trying to figure out which one it was. So yeah, we have backer kit on that. I have Knockoff, which is a solo RPG about creating a cursed dress and summoning a demon.
That sounds great. Is there? Can you also make the dress and summon a Hellport with it?
You could potentially, if you really wanted to. But either way, you're going to be making a dress out of, bits of paper. So
I mean, the devil does wear Prada, right? So
the devil does wear Prada. Yes. And that's going to not Kickstarter. I keep wanting to say Kickstarter, but crowdfunding campaign platform. Backer kit. That's the one. Backer kit. Sometime in 2025. So yeah.
Nice.
Cool. You can reach me on all the things at some combination of my first name and last name, which is Sen-Foong Lim, Senfoong, last name Lim, Lim. I know it's a hard thing to spell, but I'm the only one in the world with that name, I think, so not that hard to find once you get it in there. Let's see. So yes, like Banana mentioned, we have Jiangshi coming out on Backer Kit in a couple weeks, actually. I will hopefully have another one with Wedding Games coming out called Fast Cars and Family, which is our homage, our love letter to Fast and the Furious.
Fast and the Furious.
That's right. And that I'm working on with Doug Lewandowski and Chad Nolan. Then I don't know if our backer kit late pledge just closed, but it might still be open for Core of Discovery, which is basically logic and deduction, Lewis and Clark and monsters, which is super fun. Jay and I just finished that campaign. We hit like 400K, which is great for us. And then we have the backer kit coming out. And let's see what's next. Banana, we have something coming out. I probably like more next year. We were supposed to do it like late this year, but I think it might be early next year. And it's called Tiandang, which is basically Chinese Lantern Festival stuff, but in space.
Oh.
So imagine you're like, imagine it's like Firefly with actual Asians in it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So flying around in the gig economy and making money to retire in the new space that the Chinese diaspora has populated far away from Earth, and other people too. But yeah, so it's another one where it's like Chinese futurisms. There you go.
That's great. Well, thank you again for joining us. Just wanted to shout out our next episode. We're going to have the whole Van Ryder team together, Van Ryder Games team together. So I think we might do a final girl themed episode. So this is your chance, everyone. Get in your final girl questions. I know that they're burning, and we're going to have the whole team there that you can ask. So send those into marketing@vanrydergames.com or through the Van Ryder Games Discord, which if you're not already part of, you should definitely join because we're having good times in there. But that's it for today. So thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back again next month. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.